The barrel seemed to grow as she watched it point in her direction. The man never saw Frank, who stepped over the fallen door the moment it hit the floor. He grabbed the rifle by the barrel, lifting it into the air as he plunged the chef's knife deep into the man's stomach. The intruder screamed in shock and pain. Frank shouted to his daughter, "Run!" Another man, just outside the door, lifted the shotgun he used to blow the door hinges. Frank pulled the barrel of the M4 to one side, spinning the first man around to face the shotgun-wielding intruder. He wrapped one arm around the man's neck and grabbed the grip of the carbine. His human shield didn't put up a fight, more concerned with the knife Frank left plunged into his belly. Frank thumbed the selector of the rifle to fully automatic and fired one-handed, ripping a burst into the shotgunner outside. The deafening boom rattled the windows as the second intruder fell back into the dirt and crawled out of the line of fire. Emily fled toward the living room when she heard the front door smashing open. Another man in the same drab fatigues moved through the doorway. Emily froze in fear, but the burst fire from the kitchen caused the man in the living room to hesitate for a moment and jolted her back into action. Frank had to get his daughter to safety. He wrenched his human shield's head to one side, snapping the man's neck. He didn't have time to unsling the rifle, so he tossed the dead man aside before rushing to his daughter. Emily moved down the hall, and Frank crossed to the living room to follow. Shots rang out from the front door, and rounds crashed into the walls around him. One bullet punched into his thigh, almost knocking him over. Another hit him in the ribs and grazed across his back. Frank's vision tunneled into blackness for an instant before returning. He caught up to Emily and used his massive bulk to shield her as they ran toward the garage door. He glanced down at his thigh, and even though the pain was excruciating, he saw no blood, not even a hole in his jeans. They were using rubber bullets. They wanted him alive. Why? He opened the door into the garage and led his daughter to the black Ford F-350 parked inside. She opened the passenger door and jumped into the truck. Frank went to his tool shelves and opened a hidden compartment in the wall. He pulled out a Beretta M9 and 2 spare magazines. Pressing the slide of the weapon back slightly, Frank visually confirmed that there was a round in the chamber. He tucked the magazines into one of his back pockets and hopped into the driver's side. "Buckle up, baby. Keep your head down," he said. Emily was scared, tears welling up in her eyes. He tried his best to calm her with a smile. Frank usually kept the key inside the truck for emergency escape purposes. The irony that it was a behavior he did to ease his feelings of paranoia was not lost on him. He pressed the start button, and the powerful V8 diesel engine growled to life. The doorway connecting the house to the garage burst open as one man snapped his rifle up and began firing. Frank slammed the gear into reverse and stepped on the gas. Rubber riot rounds were slamming into the windshield, causing spiderweb cracks, as the F-350's wheels spun in place for a moment. They finally gained traction, and 3 tons of steel and rubber shot backward through the closed garage exterior door. The thin steel door gave only the slightest protest before it tore free from its rails and rolled under the heavy-duty tires. Looking back over his shoulder, Frank saw a van at the bottom of his driveway. It was parked sideways as a roadblock to discourage any attempted escape from the garage. The men in the van were not expecting this situation at all. Frank pressed the accelerator down as the pickup truck roared. The van driver's eyes shot wide, and he began grabbing and pushing random things on the dashboard, completely forgetting how to drive at that moment. Frank swerved the rear of the truck to one side the instant it slammed into the side of the van, nearly tipping it over. His driver's side window now faced the house, and he saw 2 more men outside his front door. They lifted their rifles to take aim. Frank put the Ford's gear into drive and reached out with the M9 pistol in his left hand. He emptied a full magazine of 9mm hollow points at the 2 as he drove away, hitting one of them in the chest before he could fire at the truck. Pulling away from the area, Frank glanced into the rearview mirror. He saw a car that was parked across the street from the house speed after him. The van was circling to follow them as the remaining armed men rushed to get inside it. Frank lived in a remote area, so he knew the police response time would be much longer than they could afford to wait. Still, he told Emily to call 911 and let them know what was happening. Frank switched the pistol to his right hand and reached into his back pocket with his left for one of the spare magazines. His right forearm was keeping the steering wheel stable as he thumbed a release that dropped the empty magazine free. He reloaded the M9 and stored it in a holster between his seat and the center console. The road ahead came to a sharp right turn, and Frank prepared to take the corner without slowing down. Emily had her cell phone out of her pocket, ready to dial emergency services when she caught the glint from something stretched across the road. She yelled for her father to slow down. Frank saw the spike strip right as his daughter shouted a warning. He swerved the truck back to the left to widen his turn and evade the spikes.